check to see if the, yeah, Logan can see me okay. All right. What have I got here to give you on this last day? I'm not sure. I'm looking over my stuff and I thought, I'm not sure if I covered this, so I'm just going to give it to you again. But if we did cover it, what? If it's valuable stuff, it doesn't hurt to repeat it sometimes. This is from Rush chapter 5, where it talks about good working relationships and principles of human relationships. All relationships revolve around needs. All relationships revolve around needs. I mean, this guy says some pretty interesting stuff. He says like, no, my relationship with my wife revolves around needs. My relationship with my employer here at Calvary revolves around needs. My relationship with the people in my class revolve around needs. Let's think about that a little bit. My wife has some needs that she kind of hopes I'll meet. And if I meet those needs, well, that's what he says next. Second thing is, met needs build relationships. Unmet needs erode relationships. So, his assumption is that our relationships, and he uses the word revolve around needs. And when I'm meeting your needs, what am I doing? I'm building, I'm strengthening the relationship. And when I don't meet your needs, I'm eroding the relationship. Okay, let's just start with our class as a place to start this discussion. On Monday, somebody in this room, I don't remember who, but someone suggested that we have snacks. And I could have said, snacks? This isn't Bible school. This isn't vacation Bible school. This isn't a good news club. This is a college classroom where we come in here to learn. Snacks? Who needs snacks? And just proceeded to start teaching the class. Now, if I would have done that, would that have strengthened our relationship or eroded our relationship?
Eroded.
Okay, does anyone remember who suggested we have snacks? I think it was Esther. If I would have made those comments, see, now that we've been together for a week, well, 30 hours, no, 25 hours, 20 hours already. Now that we've been together for 20 hours, I know a little bit about you. I think I do. We'll find out. So if I would have said that after Esther made that suggestion, I believe Daniel would have said, he is a bad person. And I'm not going to listen to one thing he says for the next 5 days. Because that was hurtful. Am I close to the truth, Daniel?
You never know.
See, and okay, now you guys have to help me, because see, Daniel won't tell me when I'm close to the truth. He really plays things close to the chest. He's a private kind of. It's interesting. His mission in life is to help his young people create this biblical worldview, but he's a little reluctant to bare his soul and share his thoughts. But that's okay. That's Daniel, and he'll understand that when his students are reluctant to share their thoughts. He'll understand how they feel about that. But would the two of you agree with me that that could be Daniel's reaction to me saying something mean to Esther about her suggestion for snacks?
Could be, yeah.
That there's a possibility for that? And if there's that possibility, then that, well, we know what I said already eroded my relationship with Esther, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it eroded my relationship with Daniel, probably did. He won't tell us for sure, but it probably did. Would it damage my relationship with you, Todd? If I made that little speech about, this isn't Bible school, this isn't vacation Bible school, this isn't Good News Club, snacks, this is a college classroom, we came in here to learn, we don't need snacks. Would that have built a relationship with you or eroded a relationship with you?
Maybe a little bit eroding.
If I was sitting where you are and someone made that suggestion and the teacher made that comment, it would erode my relationship with that person. So that's what we're talking about, that you meet people's needs and you strengthen, you build relationships. You don't meet needs, unmet needs erode relationships. So I said, maybe we should think about snacks. And I probably took that parliamentary procedure thing, since we're doing this role-playing thing, and said, did I say something like, would anyone like to make a motion that we bring snacks? Is that what I said? And does anyone know what happened next?
You made a motion?
Someone made a motion that we bring snacks. Someone made a motion that I bring snacks. And being the chair with the gavel, I modified the motion to be more inclusive. That we bring snacks instead of me bring snacks. I just changed one letter, Daniel, from M to W. All I changed in the sentence is one little letter. Why would that hurt anybody? I didn't know Daniel would feel uncomfortable with me changing his word that much. But did we get snacks? Yes. And that we did that, obviously not because I like snacks, because I'm not eating this stuff, but because I wanted to do what? Meet needs to build a relationship with you guys during this time we're going to be here together. And in the process of deciding which snacks to bring, I just used my best judgment again. I used my best judgment to change me to we. Then I used my best judgment to scratch off ice cream, not knowing that it was the same person who suggested me, and I changed it to we, and the same person who suggested ice cream, and I scratched it off the list. Okay, I'm not meeting this guy's needs. You understand? From day one, I'm eroding my relationship with Daniel. And I don't even, and you understand, and I don't even know it. I didn't know I was eroding the relationship. Did you know that, Esther?
I mean...
Did you pick up on it?
When you changed it, the motion, it was like, oh, okay.
Did you think that would erode the relationship with him for me to change it? Did you think I was eroding the relationship by changing the motion from me bringing snacks to we bringing snacks? And then crossing off ice cream? Did that register with you, Talk, that I was eroding my relationship with Daniel? Did it? No? Did you think he's eroding his relationship with
Not
Daniel?
those precise words, no.
Okay, but you thought he might be
Causing tension.
causing tension for Daniel. Do you know Daniel very well? Have you had other classes with Daniel?
Yeah.
Is that why you were so quick to say the other day, he's just a little? You see? And if I would have known him as well as you do from previous experience, I would have handled that differently. I mean, we're talking about this process and how it works. And it isn't like I walk in a room, let's see who I can erode a relationship with today. Nobody walks around thinking like that. We just do things, and by our very actions, we either build relationships, strengthen relationships, or erode relationships. I get in the car, we're going someplace. Well, we're going to go watch my grandson wrestle or play basketball or whatever. And Nina says, when are we leaving? And I said, let's see, we probably ought to leave here at 6 o'clock. And so at 3 minutes till 6, I walk out the door and get in the car and start the engine. At 5 minutes after 6, my wife gets in the car. And she goes, sorry I'm late. Now, what's she trying to do? Build a relationship? Because she knows I wanted to leave at 6. And I can say to her, that's okay. I planned to leave a little bit early just in case you were late. It's no big deal. Would that build a relationship? Or I can say, why can't you ever be on time? What would that do? Strengthen the relationship or erode the relationship? That would erode the relationship. So the idea that I want you to pick up from Rush here, from his chapter 5, is where it comes from, is that that when I meet people's needs, I'm building relationships. I'm strengthening the bond of our team, of our community. And when I don't meet needs, even if I'm not aware of them, if I don't meet needs, I'm eroding relationships. So now right away I'm thinking, aha. Now I'm thinking again of my smallest unit of organization I belong to, and that's my family. Oh, okay, so just for example, I signed up to teach this J-term class. And what if I would have said, you know, I have a doctor's appointment that was scheduled a long time ago, and it's right in the middle of this, so I'm going to leave early one day, and we're only going to have class for half a day on that day. And now, see, I don't understand that, Daniel. You paid good money for this class. I would think that you would want to get every hour of your money's worth out of this class. But that's okay. You know, you're not the first one to feel that way. In fact, watch this. When I was in graduate school, working on my PhD, if some professor said he had to leave class early today, and so class wasn't going to last until 10 o'clock, it was only going to last until 9, guess what kind of reaction I had, Daniel? The same one you did. Why is it that I had your reaction on your side of the table, and my reaction, why would you get so excited about class being kids? You know, it's just a matter of the roles we play in life. And so, upstairs they had a water leak, and so it came through down the basement where we live, and some tiles broke, so they fell out of the ceiling, and other tiles just got big water stains on them. My wife said, I can't sleep in that room until I get the tiles fixed. I said, I'll get them fixed right away then, so you can feel comfortable in that bedroom. And then I said, what about the water stains? She goes, well, they need to be painted, but you can wait about that. She met my need to procrastinate. If I procrastinate too long and don't get around to painting those tiles, well, that erode the relationship. I mean, you understand? That's what he's talking about. That you think in terms of I guess what we can ask ourselves is, what needs am I meeting in the lives of other people so I can build relationships? I start focusing on what can I do to meet their needs, rather than why aren't they warmer toward me? You know, why don't they want to be my friend? You know, in other words, instead of saying what's wrong with them, instead of pointing at the other person and saying what they need to do so we can have a better relationship, it's what I need to do to meet their needs so we can have a stronger bond in our relationship. And the more needs I meet in people's lives, the stronger the bond we have. The less I meet needs in their lives, the more I erode the relationship. Now can you see why two couples who met at Calvary got married and 10 years later are getting a divorce would do that? In light of all they know, I know all this stuff from the Bible and I know what they taught me at school, but we've spent 10 years not meeting each other's needs, but rather doing and saying things that erode the relationship. And it just gets to the place to where it gets to what they call a breaking point, and sure enough, next thing you know, we have a broken home. And it's like, how sad for that to happen. If people would just say, I'm just going to go around meeting people's needs. And that means that after I teach this class all day, okay, I have three more classes starting on Monday. Well, 2 on Monday and 1 on Tuesday next week. So that means those people are sending me emails. Well, I am busy teaching this class 5 hours a day. When I go home, I want to take a nap. Those folks for next week can just wait till I get around to it and feel like taking care of their needs. And what would I be doing if I took that approach? Eroding relationships with those students in my class. I send an email to the registrar and I say, "Ooh, Mr. Rogers, guess what? There are 20 chairs in my classroom where my math class is scheduled to meet, and there are 22 people enrolled in the class, along with another 12 or 14 online. Now, we could probably put a couple of desks in there, but I said, should we stop the enrollment for the daytime class, the in-class session, so we can squeeze in that room with a couple of desks?" And he says, "We've moved your classroom to the Langmaid room, like they did last semester." The Langmaid room. Were you in the Langmaid room for math talk? I thought so. I do not like teaching in the Langmaid room. Well, I'll just shoot off an email to the registrar. And I said, "Who said I wanted to teach in the Langmaid?" I mean, you understand? It's just like, look, he's trying to accommodate students. He's rescheduled my class to the Langmaid room. What do I need to do if I want to build a relationship with the registrar? Say, "Oh, fine, that'll work." Now, you know why I don't like meeting in the Langmaid room? It's not really built to be a classroom, and they keep preempting me for other things, so my class has to move here, move there, move someplace else, and we have to abandon a room for other people who are scheduled to use it. Then, if it's my classroom, tell those other people to go someplace else. You understand? Where I can either be, what am I sounding like? Am I sounding a little selfish about this whole thing? Or am I sounding like a team player? You don't want to say, Esther? Well, you told Daniel what you thought. Go ahead.
You're not acting like a team player.
I'm not sounding like a team player. And if I'm not sounding like a team player, probably I'm just being selfish. Agreed? And when I'm being selfish, I'm not meeting the needs of people. When I'm being a team player, I'm looking for ways to think, well, what do they need and how can I meet those needs? And they've talked about this, a lot of the writers have talked about this in their books, haven't they? Said meeting people's needs builds relationship. The people that work under you, find out what they need and meet their needs. And that's why I think it's important to make a note of what Rush says. And he calls it good working relationships in chapter 5, where all relationships revolve around needs. Met needs build relationships. Unmet needs erode relationships. So, watch this. Watch how this plays out. If I discover after the first day or two of class that I've eroded a relationship with one of the people in the room by some of my actions, then can I do anything?
Go buy some ice cream.
And now, did that help Daniel? I mean, just like once I became aware of one, oh man, I didn't realize I did that. But ice cream would melt. And do you remember what Daniel said when I said ice cream will melt? Anybody remember? So, melted ice cream tastes good. And I go, what? And Esther says, yeah, we can eat melted ice cream. And it's almost like that, you know, I live in this box where you don't sit ice cream out on the table and let it melt for 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do that. That's just wrong. That's bad. I would be punished at home for doing that. Well, okay, I just encountered some people in the world who like to drink melted ice cream. And guess what I discovered? It tastes pretty good. I'm going, whoa. And the stuff I took home that was left over, that's melted, I told you my wife put it in the freezer and froze it. I said, Nida, let's see what that ice cream tastes like now that it's been refrozen. This is a whole new world for me. I've lived all these years and I've never done this before. So we pulled it out, started eating it. Guess what it had in it? Like little ice crystals. But it still tasted good. It had the same flavor that when we were eating it fresh here in the room. It's like, whoa, you learn something every day. But see, this to me is what's neat. When you go to the trouble to step outside your comfort zone and meet somebody's needs because you want to build relationships, you benefit from it. Because I just learned something about ice cream that never again will I go someplace to a party and say, you better put the ice cream away, it's going to melt. Because I realized it doesn't matter. If the ice cream melts that they put out there to put on the pumpkin pie, you just pour it on the pumpkin pie and treat it like cream. And it'll do the same thing. It'll have the same effect on it. Okay, so do you understand how important this is and how you say, I need to focus on in all my relationships with my roommate in college, with my family at home, with the people I work with the people I serve with in church. I need to look for ways to meet their needs. Our pastor at church retired, and so we have an interim pastor, and bless his heart, he's doing a great job, but he knows he's the interim pastor, and he knows that people really don't like the fact that our pastor retired. And he preached a message the other day on reaching out to your neighbors. And one way to help you become aware of your neighbors on a regular basis is to take these little magnets he had. He had the little magnets, and it was just like a little square with little blocks on it. And it's like your house is in the middle, and these are the houses of your neighbors around you, and put their names in the magnets, and then put it on your refrigerator, and just pray for your neighbors. And you'll be thinking about them every day. And then as you have occasion to see them, get to know them, and eventually you might be able to bring them to church with you. And I thought, what a neat idea. And so then he said, And I have a bunch of these magnets here, so everybody can have one. Now, he's the interim pastor. So what percent of the people in the congregation went up afterwards to pick up a magnet? He had it up in the front of the church. Out of like 150 people, how many people do you think walked up there to pick up a magnet? Want to guess? If you were a guest speaker at your church, how many people out of 150 would walk up there and pick up a magnet?
I think most.
How many?
Most of them.
Most of them would at your church? If he was a guest speaker, boy, then I bet he was hurting when he left our church. Because he's been an interim pastor in a number of churches. That's kind of his specialty, is doing that. And I bet he was hurt when he left. Because only about 15 people walked up there to get that. And he came to the back to greet people as they left. And I walked up and I said, "Hey, you got one of those magnets with you were giving away? I need one of those things, but I'm sitting in the back and I thought I could get one on my way out the door." And he goes, "Yes, I do." I said, "Thank you very much. That was an excellent message." Now, I already know who all my neighbors are, and we pray for them on a regular basis. But what was I doing? It was an excellent message, and it was a good handout, but what was I doing as a parishioner in the church? Did he have a need that needed to be met to let him know that somebody at this church appreciates what he did? So you say, I just need to walk around. If I want to build relationships with people, I just walk around and look for needs that I can meet. And guess what I do? I enlarge my circle of friends. I mean, where the Bible addresses this issue, I think, is if you want to have friends, you need to show yourself friendly. And what does a friend do? A friend helps you, don't they? A friend is there to encourage you. So I say, just go around meeting people's needs and your circle of friends will enlarge. And if I want to reach my neighbors for Christ, then I look for occasions to meet their needs. It was so cool. My wife sent a Christmas card to all our neighbors, and she said, "Hey, we don't see each other very often because we're so spread apart, because our houses aren't right next to each other since we live on a little cul-de-sac with acreages." But she said, "But if you ever need anything," she said, "the thing I like about this community is we watch out for each other. And if you ever need anything, let us know." And this new neighbor who just moved in this summer called and said, "Nina, thank you for your card." She goes, "It came at just the right time. We're leaving to go on a trip over Christmas, and we were wondering what we were going to do about someone collecting our mail for us." And she said, "Would you be willing to do that?" And Nina said, "I would love to. Thank you for calling." That's why I sent the card out. And you understand that you just meet people's needs. You look for ways to meet their needs. The guy who lived there before they moved in, his wife got sick and was in the hospital, and so while she was there, Nina just called him and said, "Hey, I fixed some beef stew for our supper, but I fixed extra in case you would like to have some. Could we bring some over?" And he goes, "That would be wonderful." And it's just like you look out, you look to help people. You seek to do things. You look for what are some needs they might have, and what can I do to meet those needs. Okay, that's enough of that one. The next thing from Rush is types of relationships found in organizations. Now, I don't think any of my, did the handouts talk about those four kinds? Cooperation. Now, that little assessment thing you fill out talks about it a little bit. You know, that page that where you put check marks by all of our names. And thank you, Daniel, for turning in your little sheet with the check marks on it. And cooperation, retaliation, domination, and isolation. So, what kind of relationship do we have in our organization? Have we had cooperation, where we're meeting each other's needs, we're working together, we trust each other and respect each other? I would say, yeah, I think we've got a cooperative thing going. Let's see, you can ask that, so what about my relationship with my wife at home? Are we meeting each other's needs? Am I meeting her needs? Do I trust her? Does she trust me? Do I respect her? Does she respect me? Are we working together? You follow what's going on? Cooperation. The next one is retaliation. What's retaliation? Okay,
Fighting back.
What?
Fighting back.
Fighting back. Or when I grew up, it was called getting even. Anyone know what that is? Did you ever have a situation with a sibling where you had to get even? Okay. Now here's how that works. My sibling does something mean to me. So, to retaliate, now watch this, I get even. Did I get even or did I go up here? What did I do, Daniel?
You got a little extra even.
I got a little extra even. So my sibling says I have to retaliate and do what? Get even. So he does what? Gets even or gives a little extra to the even. And this retaliation stuff grows into pretty soon a full-blown. Did any of you ever have a fight with a sibling to the point that someone got so angry about this getting even stuff that they were on the verge of doing serious physical harm to the other one? You have, Esther?
Mm-hmm.
That's scary, isn't it? That's sad that we can reach that place in life. My brother got so mad at me once, I knew if he caught me, I would probably die. So I just kept running, because I could run faster than he could, and he never caught up with me till he finally cooled off and settled down, and I thought, I'm going to live another day. And it was all over this getting even thing. It was just, and all it was retaliation. Well, watch this. Okay, what was my caring objective that I filled out on that little sheet early in the week? To call my wife when I leave class and say, hey, how about I bring you a fish sandwich from McDonald's for lunch? So I've been doing it every day. So let's just say this morning, she goes, oh, Tom, I'm sorry I overslept. I didn't bring you your Raisin Bran and put it on the nightstand next to you so you could have some breakfast as soon as you rolled out of bed and put your feet on the floor. Well, if she's going to forget my breakfast, I will just not call her and offer to buy her a fish sandwich. You understand? Retaliation. It's just going to damage the relationship. Hey, she forgot. You could forget. Well, maybe I'll just forget to call her. No, that wouldn't be forgetting. That's remembering and just doing it to be mean. So, no, I'm going to call her after class. Domination is the third type of relationship. What's domination? You know, some years ago, I was teaching the people in the counseling department a class on assessments, and a popular instrument that was used in counseling circles was the Taylor-Johnson Temperament Analysis, the TJTA. Have any of you heard of it? Okay, it's a measuring instrument that just that two guys, Taylor and Johnson, put together this instrument to measure temperament. And when I taught the class, I thought it would be good for them to learn how to score a test. So I took the test and then gave all the counseling majors a copy of my answers, and then gave them the scoring key so they could score my answers and just learn how to score something. And after they scored it, they go, "Dr. Bonine, you know what this test says about you?" And I'm going, "What?" And they go, "This test says you're hostile and dominant." Now, can you imagine what that does to a group of counseling majors to have a professor who scores hostile and dominant on the TJTA? Are you thinking, well, that test said something about him, what did he do about it? And actually I said, do you know what this test was written for? And they go, what? I said, do you know why Taylor and Johnson put this test together? And they go, no. I said, they built this test to be a screening mechanism for finding people who are well suited to be elementary school teachers. Am I well suited to be an elementary school teacher? Probably not. According to the Taylor-Johnson Temperament Analysis. But I am very well suited to be a high school teacher and principal. And in the school where I was the principal, when we would have staff meetings and all the elementary teachers and the high school teachers would meet together to talk about students, the elementary teachers were shocked at how high school teachers related to their students. Did any of you have a high school teacher who related to you like your elementary teachers did?
Wow.
You did.
I had the same teachers, so.
Oh, you had the same teacher. So when you were younger and you did something wrong, your mother said, "Daniel, now that could be dangerous. Now that's not a good idea. Daniel, that's not a safe thing to do." Then when you were a teenager and you did the same thing, she said, "Daniel, you know better than that." Agreed?
Yeah.
Okay, so see, and guess what? Effective high school teachers and high school principals, from an elementary perspective, are hostile and dominant. I mean, they're in your face, and they take charge of the situation. They're not just a bunch of warm, fuzzy people. So that my personality lends itself to working with secondary students, but not so much with elementary. But the counseling majors, who obviously are more like elementary style people, warm and fuzzy and caring. We used to have a counselor at our school who would counsel students, and he would say, "You know, Tom," he said, "sometimes the students come to me and say that they came to see you for some counsel, and you just told them what they ought to be doing to get their life straight." I said, "That's what I did." I said, "When they come to see me, I say, let's see what the Bible says about what you're doing. Let's see what you've been doing. Let's see why you're suffering these consequences." And I just take a mathematical approach to da. And he said, they were just a little hurt by that, so they came to see me. I said, "You know, that's why you're a different approach to counseling I am. You're the warm, fuzzy guy who says, oh, let me wrap my arms around you and make you feel warm and fuzzy about it. And we're all have problems. We'll keep working on it. Let's get better. And I said, and there's a place for your kind of counseling, but there's a place for me telling them, hey, get with the program. It takes both kinds to make the whole thing work. And I appreciate you, and you don't want to be the principal, do you? He said, no way. I said, and you appreciate me. I function as a principal to school. You function as the warm, fuzzy guy who makes them feel good. One time my daughter said, Dad, the kids in the high school say you're mean. And you're not, Dad. I said, well, don't tell them that. That's our secret. I'm a very caring father. But if all the high school kids thought I was as nice as I am to you, they would take advantage of me. So I walk around the building with a grim look on my face, serious about stuff. Things that would be funny normally aren't funny because I picture one student does something stupid and everybody else wants to do the same stupid thing to entertain their friends, and it just gets out of control. So I say, no, we can't have that. So, domination? Yeah. But wait a minute. What about this husband-wife relationship? Well, didn't God put me in charge? So does that mean a husband's supposed to dominate the relationship? Does it, Esther? No. No. And Nina says, knowing that I'm a principal type and I can be very domineering, she goes, one time I said, Nina, nobody talks to me like you do. She said, that's because I'm your helpmate. And that's why God brought us together, because we make a good team. And she's right, we do. And I wouldn't be as effective as I am in ministry if I didn't have her at home to bounce things off of and to balance me out as a personality. But I know, I just know I have a dominant personality. I go to Oklahoma to see my family. We're sitting around a table talking about something, and if this were to happen, if I were to go to Oklahoma for a funeral, and we were after the funeral eating dinner together, and my sister was across the table from me, and she brought up something that we just talked about in this class, I would lean over on the table, and without even thinking about it, I would go into my teacher mode, and I say, you know, we just discussed that in the class of mine over the college, and I would start da-da-da-da-da-da, expounding on it with her, and my sister would go, don't talk to me in your teacher voice. It's like, back off. Don't be telling me what for. And I realized that just going to Oklahoma and visiting with my relatives, if they bring up something I teach in a classroom, I start to go into classroom lecture mode, and that's perceived by my family as trying to dominate. Just lighten up, back off, and let it go. Domination is what Rush calls winners controlling losers. And there are no winners when one person is controlling another person. That's not a win-win situation. And there's a lot of books written on win-win out there, where you can work things out to where both people win. And of course, what? You say, well, I don't want to be cooperative, and I'm not going to get even, that would be wrong, and I'm not the dominating type, so I'll just isolate myself and just kind of slip back into isolation mode, and then I just won't interact with anybody. That's not healthy either, is it? Because then, whatever you, in fact, one time in a board meeting, we made a decision to do something in a school board meeting where I was the chairman of the school board. We made a decision to do something, and then we announced it, and we got a great big blowback on our decision from the families in the school. And we went to our next meeting, and I said, well, we sure made a mistake, didn't we? And this guy raised his hand. He said, Tom, I could have told you that was going to happen. And I said, well, why didn't you? He said, well, I'm just not one to speak up. He said, I've said things in the past and nobody tends to listen. You know, so he had taken the isolation approach, And guess what happened? Because he had taken the isolation approach, he had reached a place, in this place, where he was a part of the board, so technically he had a responsibility to speak up and share his thoughts, but he had, and I didn't even know this when I became chairman, but he had enough experience where he got his feelings hurt that he didn't speak up and say what he was thinking. So he saw us driving down the road, heading to a collision, and he just sat there in the back seat and said, "Go ahead, let him run off the road and hit the tree." And I said, "You could have saved us a lot of grief." He goes, "Well, I didn't mean for that to happen." He said, "I'm sorry about that." I said, "You know what? If you've had people squelch you in the past, then from now on, every time we have a meeting and discuss things, I can understand you being reluctant to share things in a group, but after the meeting's over, why don't you and I go out and get a cup of coffee and talk about the meeting, and you share your thoughts with me?" And we would do that, and he would share his thoughts, and I'd say, "That's a great idea," and I'd pull a card out of my pocket and say, "Can I write that down and share it with the rest of the group the next time we meet?" He goes, "I don't care." I said, "Can I tell him it came from you?" And he goes, "I don't care." But so what happened is, because he had been squelched, maybe I even should use the word dominated by somebody else in the group, he had decided to shut down and he wouldn't share his thoughts. And so I started collecting his thoughts and then sharing them with the rest of the group. And he saw how valuable they were to the group, so he eventually started to open up. But what one of the things said, all this team building stuff takes time, doesn't it? You just have to give things time. So when you have someone on your team that's had some bad experience, then you say, I'm going to have to take some time helping them get beyond that bad experience so we get back to having healthy relationships again. Okay, what do you have to do to restore a cooperative relationship in an organization? In other words, once the relationship's been damaged, what do you have to do to fix it? And guess what the first thing he says? This is in chapter 13, I think it is. Admit your current relationship. Admit that you've offended somebody. Admit that you've made a mistake. Admit that you did something wrong. I shouldn't have marked off ice cream. I just shouldn't have done it. But now that I did, I can change that. Now, you notice, I admit, I shouldn't have marked off ice cream. But I don't admit that I shouldn't have changed his motion from me bringing ice cream to me bringing snacks to we bringing snacks. Because that was a good decision. Wasn't it, Daniel? Even if the ice cream was this, wasn't it? That ice cream did that. But even if it was a little painful, that was a good decision. And if I would have known that decision would inflict some pain on somebody, then I would have done something to alleviate the pain after I became aware of it. Okay? I mean, you just have to if you're going to build good relationships. But I still would have made that decision because that was in the best interest of the group. I can't sacrifice the benefit of the group for the sake of a relationship with one person. But that ice cream thing, that was just a mess up. Not an intentional mess up, but it's a mess up. So I just admit, I messed up marking ice cream off. And I confessed. Now this says, confess your selfishness as sin to God and to the other person if necessary. Well, I don't think I transgressed that far, did I, with scratching off the ice cream? I just smacked him in the chest. So it hasn't reached the level of being sin. It was just a painful oversight on my part because I didn't know Daniel better. So I make a decision to cooperate, or I make a decision to fix it. to try to restore the relationship. By doing what? Offering to bring ice cream, even though I don't think it's a good idea, and asking what kind you would like to have. And number 4, acting out of love, 1 Corinthians 13. And then, and watch this is a cool one, number 5. And okay, now watch. You see how easy it would have been on the second day. I mean, in this class, this is pretty heart and soul stuff in here. On the second day, when I found out about the ice cream thing, if I think it wasn't the second day I figured it out, that I could have said, well, it's just too bad we've got someone in our class who's a little too sensitive. He's just going to have to toughen up and learn to bite the bullet. No. Start thanking God in prayer and in public for those in the relationship. In other words, Daniel didn't have any choice about having me for a professor. So it's a two-way street. You know, he'll do his best to work with me, and I will thank God for him and pray for him like I pray for the rest of you. And I will do what I can to reach out and build relationships and try to meet needs. So instead of me making a mean decision after I found out that Daniel was hurt by me scratching off ice cream, I could go ahead and try to mend the relationship and make it better. Now here we are on Friday. It's the end of our conference. I mean, this is a retreat, okay? And we're a staff in an organization. So now that we're heading back to church to do ministry for a year, and all 4 of us are going to be working closely together. So what do you think, Daniel? Is this going to work for us, or are we going to have to work on this stuff of building a relationship more?
It'll work.
It'll work. And it probably wouldn't hurt for us to get together once in a while, would it?
Yeah, just make sure it's at Brahms.
That's right. And make sure every time we go out to eat, I take you someplace and buy you ice cream. And can you see where it's just like saying, okay, I think I fixed it, but if we were on a full-time staff somewhere, I probably would be doing that, saying, hey, let's go get some ice cream, Daniel. Let's go get some ice cream. Just remind that I goofed. I made a mistake. I messed up, and I didn't mean to hurt you like that, but we can fix it. And sometimes with some people, I'm just telling you, you can make a mistake with them and hurt them to the point to where you're going to have to spend a whole 3 months, 6 months, or a year repairing the relationship. But see, here's why that doesn't bother me. Because if the tear in the relationship would have been so severe that we need to spend 6 months going out for ice cream every week to repair the relationship. Okay, watch this, Daniel. This is so cool. If I have to go out with someone for 6 months to repair the relationship that I've broken by some misstep that I didn't even realize I was doing, that 6 months is going to strengthen our bond. It's going to cause us to better understand each other. And we'll get to know each other better. And believe it or not, the end result of doing that for 6 months is we become good friends. You go, what? Okay, did I tell you? Okay, I know I've got too many stories, but these stories illustrate these principles so well. Did I tell you about in Peoria, the girl who came to me one time and said, and she was like you, Esther, very perceptive and just a very quality person. And she said, Mr. Bonine, why don't you like Jerry? And I said, who said I don't like Jerry? She said, it shows. And I said, it does? She goes, I know you don't like Jerry, and some other people have noticed it too. And I thought, that is not good for this student in our school, for students to know that when I interact with him, they can tell I don't like him. Would you like to know why I didn't like him? I don't really know why I didn't like him. He just was an irritable kid. You ever meet someone like that? Do you ever have a young person and you're in one of your clubs or something, some kid that just irked you, that just rubbed you the wrong way, and you weren't sure why? But I knew, based on this stuff that the stuff I'm teaching here is stuff that I studied before I became a principal. And so I knew I had to do something about it. So what I went up to him and I said, Jerry, I said, how about one night a week after school, I take you home and we stop on the way home at McDonald's and get a hamburger. He said, what for? I said, I'd just like to buy you some dinner and spend some time getting to know you better. And he goes, let me think about it. And I go home and I'm thinking, that little turkey, I offered to try to repair the relationship and he wants to think about it. But, can you tell? He felt the same way about me. So he came back the next day and said, let's do it a couple of times and see how it goes. I said, fair enough. And so we set a date for that week. I took him out to McDonald's and he said, what can I order? I said, anything you want. I said, it's my treat. I just want to get to know you better. He said, you don't care how much I spend? I said, no. And he didn't order a lot of food, but just the fact that I offered. He ordered something, we sat down to eat, we started visiting, and he said, now why are we doing this? And I said, I just don't know you very well, and I'd kind of like to get acquainted, and I don't think you know me very well either. He goes, like what kind of things? I said, well, like for example, I grew up on a farm in Oklahoma, and all my life I was a wheat farmer. We raised wheat and cattle. And I said, what kind of home do you come from? He said, I live on a farm. We raise corn. I'm going, really? Isn't that interesting? And then I said, my favorite subject in school is mathematics. And he says, so is mine. And I'm going, really? I said, tell me some more things. And he starts talking and just telling me things about his life. And I said, wow, I can't believe how much we have in common. Now, I wasn't ready to say how much we're alike, because why would I not like somebody who was like me? Because he was like me when I was in high school. And I was disgusting when I was in high school. I got saved at 18 and got saved from that. And this guy's reminding me of it, and it's bothering me. And then I said, so what do you think about school? And he started sharing his thoughts, and I said, those were the exact same thoughts I had when I was in school. And he goes, really? I said, yeah. And he said, well, how in the world did you ever become a school principal thinking like that? And I said, I'm just as surprised as you are that this is what God did with my life. But I was 18. I was 18 years old when I trusted Christ as my Savior and surrendered my life to God. And he looked at me. I mean, this didn't all happen the first time. We met a number of times, and he looked at me and goes, wow. Because he was born again already. He just hadn't given his life to Christ, for Christ to do with it as he pleased. And the more we worked through that stuff, and it was probably 6 months of going to McDonald's and buying him a sandwich to where we developed this neat relationship. And it was all because someone said, why don't you like this guy? So what I concluded is, when somebody in a group that I'm working with, ministering to, like the young people or some child in the orphanage, when they just rub me the wrong way, I need to take the initiative to reach out to them and spend time with them to find out more about them, and we'll probably discover that they're reflecting something from my past that I don't approve of anymore. I mean, it's just amazing. And of course then I win the guy over but I also learn something about myself, so I grow as a person, but then my ministry to him becomes more effective, and then the girl who pointed this out to me notices that, hey, what's going on with you and Sherry? You guys act like you're good friends now. Well, we spent some time together and got better acquainted, and isn't that what has to happen with a lot of adolescents, that when they don't like somebody else, they just need to spend time with them and get better acquainted and learn to develop a relationship where they, meet each other's needs. So you basically confess your shortcomings to one another, you make a decision to be cooperative, you begin acting out of love, 1 Corinthians 13, and you start praying for that person and thanking God for them and thanking God for the relationship. Okay. Well, too much time on that. But this stuff, see, if we just talk about theory and don't see theory into life, we're missing what this is all about. There's a lot of people who read these books and know this stuff, but it's one thing to know it in your head. I mean, it's one thing to answer the questions and put them on the test, and you know it's an open book, open internet take-home test, so you can use all your notes and stuff to answer the questions. But it's one thing to be able to put the answers on the paper, but it's another thing to take those same principles and apply them to life. And if you don't take what you're learning from the reading and from these discussions and from these handouts and apply it to life, then you really haven't benefited from this class. Okay, so what do we have here? Well, we've got some handouts on motivation. Now we're going to talk about getting people motivated. When we evaluate, a key concept on the left-hand side, second paragraph there, a key concept of management is to find out what a man wants and make a deal with him. That's what a lot of secular books will say. When we evaluate whether a person is motivated or not, what we're really asking is, does he meet our expectations? When you were a crew leader at McDonald's, is that what they called them?
It was at Whataburger, but
At Whataburger? Oh yeah, in Texas? Oh man, those are good ones. I've been to, have you been to Whataburger? When you go to Texas, make sure you go to a Whataburger. You will not like McDonald's after you've been to Whataburger. That's, but when you were, is that what they called you, a crew chief?
team leader, but
A team leader, when you were a team leader, and your boss came up and said, Daniel, you're doing a great job. Did he ever say that to you? Oh. Did he say, Daniel, you're doing a good job? Did he ever compliment you?
probably.
Or was he from Oklahoma where he said, Daniel, you're not half bad? Do people in Texas use what I call left-handed compliments?
Yep.
Do they? They hit you in the side of the head and tell you that was a compliment? Otherwise you'd have been fired? It's just like, that's not half bad. You're a halfway decent supervisor. I mean, it's just like, okay, but you see that when people are pleased with what you're doing, then they assume you're motivated. Everyone is motivated to do something. What motivated you to come to class every day this week?
The grade.
A grade. If I didn't show up for class, my grade would be diminished substantially. What motivated you to read all the material you had to read for this class before class started and during these reading assignments you're reading now?
Same.
The grade. What motivated you to take this class?
Requirement.
What?
The requirement.
It's a required class in my course of study. You know, sometimes I have fun with this. Sometimes I say, wow, this is so cool that I put together this wonderful class called Administrative Process, and you saw the description and thought, wow, I want to take that class, and you all signed up for it. And they go, no, Dr. Bodine, we signed up for it because it's a required course in our program of study. I know. And then it's like, okay, so why is it a required course? Because supposedly the content of this class is going to make you more successful in what you do down the road in your ministry. So, what do you think? Is the stuff you've been reading and the stuff we've been doing in class, is that going to help you be more successful in your ministry down the road? In Japan? In Europe? In Guatemala? Good. So that it's been worth the time and effort and money to come here and spend this time together. And the snacks just made the whole process easier. It's like greasing the wheels kind of thing. If all of the organization's goals are viewed as our goals, we've made a major step toward motivation. So what that means is the goals that we've set forth, the goals that you've put on that little discussion page, those are your goals. When they become the goals of the people on the staff in the orphanage, when they become the goals of your co-workers in Europe, when they become the goals of the people working with you in Japan, then you've motivated those people to become more effective in terms of their work. Pay is not the primary motivator of most people. Most people are motivated. I mean, we take a job because we want a paycheck, but what keeps us coming back is when you were a team leader, what kept your team members would show up on time and punch in to get paid. But what motivated them to stay with that job was the things that you said and did to make their life more meaningful. And if they really couldn't stand the work they were doing, they probably are just going to fall by the wayside and say, I'll find another place to earn a paycheck. You can sack at the grocery store if you don't want to work at Whataburger. You could, it's a cool place down there. I was in Texas this last summer, or a couple summers ago, for a wedding, and first thing I did was say, I gotta get a Whataburger. Everybody talks about it in Texas.
Water burger?
W-A-T-T-A, isn't it?
No, it's what? Like
W-H-A-T?
What's a burger?
Yeah.
What a burger. Oh.
But it's with the Texas accent.
What a burger.
So it just like runs together.
W-H-A-T-A-B-U-R-G-U-R. What a burger. How funny is that? The local church has probably one of the most complex problems of motivation of any kind of organization. Why is that? Well, do we pay people to come and work at church? They're just volunteers. But if you volunteered for this ministry is so important, we don't give you a paycheck here because you get one in heaven. And which is the bigger paycheck, the one you get on this earth or the one you get in heaven? I mean, the school pays me for teaching this class, but it's not the money that they're giving me that really matters. It's whether or not what you've learned in this class enhances your ministry down the road. And as much as I enjoy the money they give me for teaching this class, when some student sends me an email and says, Dr. Bonine, you know that stuff we talked about in class? It just works just like the book said. It works just like it did in class, out here in real life. I go, praise the Lord. Keep up the good work. Keep going. That's the real reward. That's why I think it's important for us to actually learn to share with people and let them know what they've done in our lives to make a difference and to help us on our way to be successful. So where do you begin? Begin with purposes and goals. It may sound as though we keep re-emphasizing this subject, and we do, and we should. The reason so many people come in the front door and soon go out the back door of many Christian organizations, particularly churches, is that they've either a false or an inadequate conception of what the organization is trying to do. A major task of every administrator when interviewing possible employees should be to clearly spell out the goals of the organization and specific objectives with which the employee is expected to align himself or herself. And you just need to keep that stuff in front of people all the time. Loving God, loving each other, and serving the community. That's what our church is all about. Loving God, loving each other, and serving in our community. And they really do emphasize, what are we doing to serve in our community? I mean, we love God. We get here and we show our love to one another with our fellowship. Now, what are we doing to reach all these people in this community who don't come to our church? And we do all kinds of things to reach out to the community to show them the love of Christ. And if somebody said, you know, I just don't know if I like that stuff about taking meals to the fire department and having the pastor serve as a chaplain for the police department and ride along with them, and having the youth pastor gone for a while he's down in at Whiteman serving as a chaplain. But that's part of the mission of our church. That's what we do. We want our people serving in the community. So basically you say, let's make sure people understand what we're all about. And say, do you buy into that? Just like when I told you, when I was in a church where I was in charge of the area where I plugged people into ministry, when someone joined the church, I would be there at the committee where they interviewed them, and they would say, well, we'll announce you on Sunday as a new member of our church. And I would say, and what areas of ministry do you have some experience in? And I had a little card, and I'd write down their name and what they did. And the ones who were leaving the church because of burnout, he said, we'll give you some time to get rested up. But after a few months of getting rested up, we're going to be looking to plug you in somewhere. So be thinking about what area of ministry you want to get involved in. And then my job was to almost have a card on everybody in church and what ministry they were involved in. Because in that church, part of our purpose was, if you don't get people involved, they just sit around and become critical. So get them involved. And if they don't want to be involved, then keep after them to where they decide, I'll leave this church and go someplace else. Because if they don't want to be involved in the ministry, we don't really want them in this church long term. This is not a spectator sport, folks. This is serious stuff. Okay, enough of that one. What's the next one? You don't know. Well, we'll find out here in a minute. What motivates people? Now, this was published in 1966. So I went to the internet to see what motivates people in the marketplace. And would you believe this? I found similar kinds of information. Human nature hasn't changed much since 1966. Pay, competent supervisors, quality human relations, Did you have a good supervisor at Whataburger?
And someday.
Good enough for you to stay there for a while? Did you have fun working with the people on your team? You understand? That's where, and they paid you adequately for what you were doing? Could you have made more money doing something else?
Oh, yeah.
But you decided to do that because?
Didn't want to have to change, and it was a good team.
See, it was a good team. It's like I could have made more money doing something else, but why change? I like the team I'm working with, and and I don't have to have a lot of money, and this seems to be working for me, so I'll just keep doing it. Working conditions, the physical surroundings. Did all of you guys have to wear little uniforms and hats and stuff? Did that bother some people?
It bothered them that they had to be like with belts or have to shave or stuff like that.
Yeah, but they didn't mind the uniforms.
Not generally. I had problems with mine, but
Since I've been all my life a Christian school teacher, sometimes I've had to work at part-time jobs to make enough money to pay the bills for everything I wanted to do. Like when I wanted to go get a master's degree, I had to earn some money to pay for it. So I got a job working at a gas station, because the gas stations are open 24 hours a day, so I could work my hours that fit all my other schedule. And guess what I discovered? This is so funny to me. I went to work at a Phillips 66 gas station. Now this was back when gas stations actually had an attendant that came out. When you pulled in, you would drive over a hose, it would ring a bell, and I would come out and pump the gas for you in your car. And I wore gray slacks and a little a little kind of white shirt with red stripes in it. That was the official Phillips 66 uniform. And I actually would remember putting on my uniform to go to work, and I thought, this is kind of a cool little uniform. I thought, isn't that funny that I like working for Phillips 66 because I like their uniform? Which I think is interesting. Intrinsic factors, number 7, 8, 9, and 10. The sense of achievement, the sense of accomplishment. I tell you what I liked about working at the gas station in terms of accomplishments or achievement. This guy who ran the gas station thought it was funny to have a college graduate working for him part-time. So he said, you know, for a college-educated man, you don't know much. And he said, I'm going to teach you how to fix cars. And he taught me how to do all these car repairs. Wow. So when my car breaks down, well, it used to be when I was younger, and my car would break down, I would just fix it. Now, I'm so old, my hand shakes when I try to work on things, and I can't see what I'm doing, so I take my glasses off, and then I can't see again. So now I just pay a mechanic to do it. It's pretty sad, but after a while, you just have to give it up. But I learned how to do a lot of stuff to fix cars. Number 8 is recognition. Did you know that you can motivate the people under you just by praising them for a job well done? I mean, I don't know if you ever did this, Daniel, but when you were a team leader, at the end of the day, when the work was finished, if you said to everyone on your team who really worked hard, said, hey, thanks for working so hard today, you did a great job. Did you say that to them? Why did you say that to them?
well, sometimes they would get frustrated with other lazy people on the team, and it was good just to compliment the ones that actually worked hard.
And it made up for it too, didn't it? I mean, not completely, but it helped them. It helped motivate them to say, they like to hear that. They like to hear that compliment. And that was good practice for when you start working with a team of people in Europe, to where you say, you know, if it worked at Whataburger, it'll work over here too. I'll just give some praise to these people who are doing a good job. I'll give praise to the kids on the team who are helping do the kind of things to make our team more attractive to others. Number 9 is responsibility. We like being responsible for something. Now, you didn't start out as a team leader, did you? You were on a team, and somebody else was a leader. And how did that transpire that you became a team leader?
Basically, they didn't have anybody else, and they thought I was the best one for the job, and they needed a team leader.
Did you guys hear that? Of all the people working at Whataburger, he was the best one for the job. Now, did the responsibility of being a team leader scare you a little bit?
Not too much.
Because you've watched how this works, and they didn't have a team leader, they need someone, and they said, we would like for you to be the team leader. Whoa! The first time the school came to me when I was working in a Christian school, and they said, we would like for you to be the principal for a year while the present principal takes a sabbatical. I'm going, why me? And they said, we like the way you manage your classroom. Whoa! I enjoyed having the responsibility. Number 10, advancement. And maybe someday I would like to be a principal. No, not really. I really enjoy being a classroom teacher. So I'm not much for advancement in terms of moving up in the organization. So number 10 doesn't appeal to me that much. And for some people it won't. They will just, they like what they do. And they enjoy the team members they work with. And that's satisfaction enough. They're not looking to move on up to another job. So when you're looking to take care of people under you, if you're in charge, ask yourself these 10 questions. Is the pay that I'm giving adequate? Am I giving them good supervision and leadership? Do I see them as a valuable part of the team? Have I made our policies clear? Before I fired that guy, did he know that this policy was a driving force in our organization? Yes, he did. Am I providing good working conditions? Are our goals clear to all the people who are working here? Am I giving praise to those who are deserving of it? And am I building up their sense of worth? Am I letting them know that they're valuable to us as an organization? All right, that's enough of that one. What's the next one? Why do people do things? Let's see. You like that little stair step over there? Seemingly, we evangelicals have settled for a general allegiance to duty which renders much service to Jesus Christ, nothing more nor less than a neurotic compulsion. Whoa, this is from Gangle's book. I do it because I have to. Since we know people will operate from that basis, we approach them on that basis. It's not effective, but it's simple and it gets the work done. How different the words of Jesus. This is from Gangle, page 106 and 107. Come, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. Now, who was he talking to when he said that? Fishermen? So if he would have been talking to carpenters, would he have said, come, follow me, and I will make you builders of the body of Christ? if he was talking to a bunch of auto mechanics today, would he say, come follow me and I will teach you how to fix people's broken lives? You understand? When I'm talking to people about what we're doing, so when you're talking to people about what you're doing at the orphanage and you're recruiting workers, you're saying, come to our orphanage and we will teach you how to what? Become parents to children who don't have any. Isn't that what we're doing in an orphanage? Not in every orphanage around the world. There are some places where it can be pretty tragic, the thinking at the orphanage. How about this for a driving force for an orphanage? These kids are here because nobody wants them, and it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. So they're going to have to learn to fight to survive, because we're going to take care of them until they're about 18 years old or 16 years old, then we're going to put them on the street. So if you're not tough, you're not going to make it. So if people roll you around and beat you up, I'm not going to intervene. I'm just going to let it happen till you figure out how to be tough enough to survive when you are no longer allowed to live here. What do you think? Is that sad? Did you know that's the thinking behind most of the orphanages in Russia? That's why the children are there, because nobody wants them. And we're just going to feed them and house them because of humanitarian reasons till they can be put out on the street. Maybe they'll survive and maybe they won't. Boy, when I learned that, I thought, oh, my heart goes out to the children who independent orphanage in Russia, who don't have parents to take care of them, and they don't have people. I mean, shouldn't an orphanage kind of try to, as best as they can, parent these little children, hold them, love on them, care for them, give them someone to bond to? Is that what they do in Guatemala? To help them learn all the people skills they need so that when they grow up, they can go out and be a successful adult. General expectation, the general expectancy the Lord has for all of His people should raise our sights above the general compulsion to duty. Now, why did I get up this morning and come to class? Because it's my duty. No, it's my responsibility. No, it's a joy to do this. It's all of the above. And I will confess to you that people say, why are you doing that? I said, well, okay. I mean, somebody said, aren't you retired? Or they said, or no, students who I had years ago come and say, you're still teaching? I go, yeah. They said, when are you going to retire? I said, I retired about 10 years ago. They go, what? I said, I retired 10 years ago. It's just that I enjoy teaching so much. As long as they'll keep letting me do it, I'm going to keep coming in the door. And as long as I can keep my head straight, keep my thoughts straight, and find my way to campus, I'm going to keep coming to campus and teaching the classes. And I tell them, when you find somebody that wants this job and they're younger, you're welcome to give it to them. But until you do, I'm going to enjoy doing this. This is my passion. This is what I love to do. And that's what Gang was talking about, is that we ought to help people find an area of ministry that they're passionate about. Why are you so passionate about orphans, Esther? What?
I don't know.
It's just the way God wired you. It's just something God put in your heart. Why are you so passionate about helping teenagers in Eastern Europe?
Well, just from being there and my personal experiences in just my life. Yeah.
And you just want to go help those people. Daniel, aren't there plenty of people in this country that need help? Why do you have to go to the other side of the world?
Because I hate America. No.
Now see,
It's in the recording now.
that makes
Take it back.
no, that makes it easier for Daniel to back up and leave here and go someplace else because he doesn't like this country in the first place. Now, some of you are probably going, why doesn't Daniel like America? Take him out to lunch and you'll find out. Are you ready for this? Compared to the rest of the world, there's a lot of things not to like about this country. I beg your pardon. We are the greatest nation on the face of the earth. Well, we have had our moments of greatness, but we've also had our moments of great disgrace too, haven't we? Probably, I don't know how you feel about Daniel, but probably one thing that bothers Daniel about America is the same thing that bothers a lot of people in Europe. We're just so arrogant. And you go, what are you talking about? And Americans don't even know that when they go to the rest of the world, that they walk about with an arrogance that's offensive to people in other parts of the world. And it's like, what? When I traveled through Europe visiting missionaries, I checked with a guy who's traveled around the world a lot, and I bought some special outfits. Well, since I'm going to be living on a train, I bought wrinkle-free clothing. But I said, I put my European outfit on, and I said, so what do you think? He said, what do you mean? I said, so will this pass in Europe? He said, perfect. You know, muted colors, dressed appropriately. If you're going to go out in public, you don't see people in Europe wearing sweatpants to go to the grocery store. What is wrong with people? They're sweatpants. They're not called grocery shopping pants. Am I on target, Daniel? See? And this stuff bothers Daniel. And it's like, well, it doesn't bother me, it doesn't bother me. I said, I know you arrogant Americans aren't bothered by any of your bothersome behaviors. And you can read books on it. I think there's a book out there called The Ugly American, as to why we look so ugly to other people. And part of it is you just need to inform yourself about other cultures and learn some good things about other places in the world. And by the way, most of the things that make us great in this country, most of the things that we're proud about were things that resulted from immigrants. For example, we became the breadbasket of the world. The Midwest raises enough wheat from Texas up to Canada. We grow enough wheat in that part of the world to feed the entire world. That's how productive we are with wheat. That wheat that is so productive came to us from Ukraine, brought here by Ukrainians who were told by a new Russian czar, you were no longer exempt from military service. but you have to serve in the military. You can't be given an exemption for raising wheat and feeding the army. So a whole bunch of Ukrainians who didn't believe in fighting, a Mennonite kind of background, packed up, put a sack of their hard red winter wheat on their back that they raised in Ukraine, that fed all of Russia, brought it to America, and planted it in the Midwest, and it made us the breadbasket of the world. Some of the equipment that we've developed was developed by immigrants from other companies. Even our atomic power has been developed by people from other countries who've come here to make America great. Because in their mind, where they were doing this work, they couldn't trust the people in charge to handle it properly. They came here to do their research and work, hoping and praying and trusting that the American system would better safeguard the powerful stuff they were developing. But it's really intriguing to learn some of this stuff. And you don't get it out of America's history books. American history books don't tell us all this stuff. You have to do your homework to find out the origins of this country being the great country it is, in terms of its power in the world and its prestige in terms of education. Even that was started by Christians early on, and our economy, the free enterprise system, or better yet, the capitalistic system, or the system based on the Protestant work ethic. You can trace all that back and say, and some of that's changing, and it's changing for the worse too. Anyway, enough of that. Let's move on down here. Rather than superimpose something on the disciples, Christ released something from within them. So instead of squeezing everybody into some kind of a mold we have here, let's bring people here and let's tap what they have within them to do a job that needs to be done here, or to enhance our ministry, or to make what we do better. David McClellan and John Atkins have isolated 3 distinct motives which affect people's work-related behavior: the need for achievement, the need for power, and the need for affiliation. I want to accomplish something. I want to have the power to decide which textbooks we use. Does it puzzle you as to why I'm using such old textbooks? I read the new books that are out there, but I don't know of any new books that have that growth cycle in it. In other words, the stuff that's foundational that you're getting in this class, I don't see any new books that replicate that stuff. The new books add some more information, but if you don't have those pictures of how organizations grow and how that cycle works, you're going to be in trouble. Actually what's going to happen is things are going to start to fall apart and you won't know why. Whereas now, if something's not working, you go, what's gone wrong here? What's happening here? How come these children's needs aren't being met? Well, what needs was it that we were trying to meet? Did we have a program to meet those needs? Were we evaluating that program? You see what happens? You say that you look at this saying, where did we falter? Where did we get off track? And that's why I use these books. Is they're old books that have principles that are timeless in them, and I think a lot of the new books are written to say, hey, someone's already written that, so let's write something else. And it's like, yeah, the other stuff is good to read, and I enjoy reading the new books, but most of them are kind of rephrasing what's been said in the past. But some of the stuff from the past that you're getting in these handouts and in the books you're reading, it's just not available. And I enjoy having the power to decide what textbooks we use in this class and what books are. And probably if I didn't have you buying so many books already, I would be having you buy this Art of Management, this little book here that I'm giving you so many handouts from, because of just the way it's put together. It's just to show you. It's got all these little topics in here. And even in the front, the table of contents is just a whole bunch of chapters, with each chapter a few pages long, with a whole bunch of topics to it. It's called The Art of Management for Christian Leaders. And it's an excellent little book. But you've got enough handouts from them where you can see that, I think. And the need for affiliation. Now, one time I had a person come to me, a supervisor, came to me and he said, Tom, I would like to be your friend. My wife doesn't like me telling this story. She thinks this is terrible. And I said to him, and he was my boss, and I said to him, and you know, I wish I had time to be your friend, but my bucket of friends is full. He was my supervisor here at work. And I worked so hard to make my boss successful that he liked me so much, he wanted us to become friends as opposed to just, people working together. And I had to say, I'm sorry, I don't have time for another friendship. Now, I was friendly to him, and we did some things together. But I knew him well enough to know, here's what he did on Saturdays. On Saturday, he played golf because he loved playing golf. And I used to play golf when I was in the insurance business. And I knew how to play golf. So when we talked golf, I could talk with him about it. And if I would have said, I'll be your friend, where would I be every Saturday if I was going to be his friend? Out on the golf course, playing 27 holes of golf with my new friend. Because that's where he spent his Saturday, and I knew he would want me to go play golf with him. Because he had suggested more once, we ought to play golf sometime together. And I always begged off, no, I didn't have time to do that. Because I had too many other commitments. If I would have said yes to his friendship and started playing golf every Saturday, I would have had to cut some other friendships out of my life. You understand what I'm saying? That there's only so much time in a week, and you only have time. Okay, when I first came to work here at Calvary, I went to all the ball games over in the gymnasium and out on the soccer field. Now I don't go to any of them. In fact, when our daughters were, our grandchildren were small, and I even brought my grandchildren to some sports events. And my granddaughter, I brought her to a basketball game, and all of the students walking by go, "Hi, Dr. Bodine, is this your granddaughter?" I said, "Yes." "Is this your granddaughter?" "Yes." And so after we got home, she said, "Tell Mom what all the students said." I said, "Oh, you mean like go, like the cheerleaders?" I thought she was talking about the cheerleaders and all the cheers they were doing. And she goes, "No, they said, is this your granddaughter? Is this your granddaughter?" That was her highlight, sitting there next to me and having all these college students say, "Is this your granddaughter?" And then when the two little grandsons were born, I brought them to a ball game. I only did that once. The granddaughter just sat there and watched. The grandsons, it was like I had to tie a rope to them. They were just all over the place. And then when they got older in school and started playing sports, now I ask you, college students, which is the priority in my life? My own grandchildren playing sports, or coming and watching the college students play sports?
Grandchildren.
Thank you. That was the choice I made. There's only so much time in life, and so it's like, these grandchildren have to become a priority. So even though I knew it weakened my relationship with students not to do that, it had to be done for the sake of maintaining the relationship with my grandchildren. And so that's why sometimes you just have to say, I want to have affiliations, I want friends, but I only have time for so many friends. And fortunately for me, as busy as I am in life, I don't need a lot of friends to feel very satisfied friendship-wise. In other words, I don't have to have a big bucket of friends. I have a pretty large bucket of acquaintances, but most of my acquaintances who know me well know that I go to social events because I want to be friendly, not because I thrive on social events and doing that kind of stuff. And they accept that because they say, like one friend of mine, my wife sent him a Christmas card, and after he got the card back and she told him what we were doing, and Tom was still teaching at Calvary, he sent a letter and talked about, it's really neat to hear that Tom's still teaching, and all the stuff he's doing, and how much he loves doing that. And I thought, now that's neat. Here's a friend who I don't see because I'm busy doing stuff and he's busy doing stuff, but we're still friends. We're just not going to be the kind of friends that get together on a regular basis. We're both too busy. Why do people do things? Maybe we should ask, why don't they do things? A host of reasons could be given, but let's focus on 3. Why don't more people volunteer to teach Sunday school? Well, they're not clear about what's expected of them. Now, I'm a teacher, so I'm going to say to my church, hey, I'll teach Sunday school if you need me. But I'm not clear as to what a Sunday school teacher does. You follow me? We often don't have a clear job description for a Sunday school teacher. I'm not even sure we know at church what we expect of our Sunday school teachers. We kind of just ask them to teach and then let them make it whatever they want it to be. And I think that's kind of sad. So the reason a lot of people don't do things is, hey, will you be a volunteer at the orphanage? You say to somebody, you go, well, I don't know if I have time for that. See, what are you asking them to do? And you say, well, no, what would you want a volunteer at the orphanage to do? Well, could you come to the orphanage and just spend some time with some of these children, teaching them how to paint? I don't know, teaching them, something about table manners? What are some things you would want a volunteer to come to the orphanage and do with the children? Just play games with them? Just go out on the playground, and what kind of games would you want a volunteer to play with the kids at the orphanage? Ring around the rosy? Pocket full of posy? Ashes, ashes, all fall down? What kind of dumb game is that? I don't even know what we're saying here.
It's about
Flag.
the black plague.
What?
It's about the black plague.
Yeah, isn't that sad? We got all this dumb stuff we do that has to do with dying.
Maybe not that one.
Yeah, see, and we don't even know it, do we? We don't even know where this stuff comes from. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. I mean, it's terrible where some of these little riddles come from. It's just like, okay, we'll go out there and play flag football. What's flag football? You put a flag on each guy's little belt, and then you get a ball that's not round, that's funny shaped, it bounces crooked. It's not a soccer ball, it's an American football. I don't know who thought that up, but that's the dumbest shape for a ball in the whole world. And then you have some kid grab it and start running with it, and everybody tries to pull his flag off. No, let's just play tackle football, where they tackle him. I was introduced to a game when I was a teenager called Kick Up and Get Smeared. Any of you ever play that? We would go out on the playground with an American football. And whoever got the ball out of the storage closet got to be the first one to kick it. And everybody would get kind of down where they thought the ball was going to land, like punters do, you know, in a football game. And he would punt the football. And then everybody would try to catch it. And whoever caught it would run as fast as he could in any direction. And all the other people who didn't caught it would smear him, would catch him and pile on top. And if he held onto the ball, he got to get up and kick it next.
Sounds violent.
It was. And we thought we were having fun. It's like, come on, people, give me a break. So it's just like, what kind of games would you want them to play, Esther, with those orphans in Guatemala?
Non-violent games.
How about soccer?
That works.
Okay, would those kids in Guatemala like soccer?
Yeah.
So you say to a volunteer, I'd like for you to bring a soccer ball and take the kids out on this little field we have out there and just let them, don't get on their case about being serious about it. Just let them have fun kicking a soccer ball around and teach them how to kick it. And can you see the volunteer saying, I can do that? Or the volunteer would say, I don't know if I could do that, but I've got a friend who would love to teach those kids how to play soccer. You see what's going on? Is that somehow we have to quit being, can you help us at the orphanage? It's like, be specific about what you want people to do. And sometimes people will say, well, I don't know exactly what I want them to do. Just like talk when you've got a gymnasium, right? Where you're going to invite kids to come to the gymnasium in Japan. And so you're saying, I want some people in the church to volunteer to come and help us with this activity, to help us interact with the kids. You say, well, what do you want me to do? And so then I'm willing to volunteer if I might volunteer if I knew what you wanted me to do. And you say, well, I just want you to sit there and look over the students that come in the door and pick one of them out and say, hi, what's your name? And sit down next to them and start to visit with them. And do teenagers in Japan like candy? So bring some candy with you, pull out a Tootsie Roll and start eating one, and then what would you say to the teen you're sitting by? Would you like to have one? In other words, volunteers need specific instructions on, in other words, don't say volunteer and I'll tell you what to do. Say, here's what I want somebody doing. I want somebody sitting next to each of the teens that comes to visit and engaging them in conversation and sharing some treats with them. I want other volunteers. What kind of games are you going to play in the gym? Basketball?
Yeah, basketball, futsal.
So I want some volunteers to come and play basketball. I want some other volunteers to come and play foosball. I want volunteers coming to do this. And some guy says, oh, I could do that. You understand? We have to be specific. And the point here is, with this handout I'm giving you, is that often we don't have volunteers because we don't specifically tell them what we want them to do. We need workers in CEF Club, right? Well, what do we need those workers to do? I don't know anything about CEF, so I can't volunteer. You understand the mindset? It's like, no, what we need is, we need someone to come and read a missionary story. Do what? Here's a sample of the missionary story that we want read. And every day you read a part of it, and then you stop each day with something exciting that's about to happen, and you pick it up the next day when you meet. And here's a sample missionary story. Look at it and see if you would like to volunteer to teach the missionary story. You see what's happening? I'm being very specific in what I'm asking people to do. Well, no, I don't think I could read that story. Well, we need someone to bake cookies and bring and serve Kool-Aid. Or punch. Which do you have in Texas? Do you have Kool-Aid, you have punch, or do you just serve Coke to everybody? We don't give Coke to little kids, do we?
Depends.
Do we give Coke to little kids?
Like, it's probably a bad idea. Like, extra caffeine added on.
It's probably a terrible idea. Unless they're going home right away, you know.
The parents can be cursed with it.
But can you see where I need a volunteer to bake X number of cookies and bring them and give them to the kids every day? Oh, well, I can do that. Well, I can't do that because I can't bake cookies. See, it's almost like I just don't need a volunteer. I need someone to volunteer to do this or this or this. And that's why we don't have more workers. We're not more specific in what we're telling people we're looking for. Our church decided to quit hiring someone to clean the building and just do it ourselves. And they said, we need volunteers to clean the building. And they weren't getting volunteers. What does that mean? And then they said, we need people who will come up here on Saturday and run the vacuum sweeper in the sanctuary. We need some people to do that. We need some other people to go through all the pews and put the gift envelopes in. Now, and we need some people cleaning the restrooms. Now we know what we do. You understand? I'm not just looking for someone to volunteer and say, what do you want me to do? I mean, that would be nice, but those people aren't showing up, so we have some specific tasks that we want people to sign up for. And that's when you increase the number of volunteers. Okay, so look at the picture at the bottom of the page. Pictures are always worth 1,000 words. So are you working because, okay, are you coming to college to earn a degree because of duress at the bottom of the page, because your family expects everyone in their family to get a college degree? Or are you doing it because of your own personal desire for fulfillment?
It's my own desire.
Or is it somewhere in between? It's not duress. My family won't disown me if I don't go to college, but it would sure make them happy if I did. You understand? That where are we on this continuum of where people are doing things? And see, duty's kind of right there in the middle. Obligation, expectation, desire. Watch this. All these years I've taught here, all of my students have been in class. And now we've made a change with Dr. Cohn as our president. And what's the change we've made? Blended learning. So now in every class I teach, I have some online students. Well, why do I teach online students? Because it's my duty, because it's an obligation with the new president, because it's what's expected of me, because I have a desire to teach people who don't have the flexibility to come here and sit in the class with us, because it's very fulfilling to help people online learn something that other people learn in a classroom setting. Now, can you say, if it's just my duty because of the new president changing the program, I probably ought to be looking for a new job somewhere where they don't have blended learning. You follow what this guy's talking about, this gang with this handout here, that this operating out of duty can wear you down. But if I really do have a desire to teach, to experience teaching people in this new medium, I mean, okay, teaching this class is not that complicated. Probably the only complicated part of teaching this class is conducting a meeting. Oh, and have all of you been to Canvas under discussions and looked at Logan's meeting? Did you look at his meeting? Did you read his paragraph? that he wrote? Did you write a response to his paragraph? Well, what is that assignment back there that you're going to get some points for that's going to affect your grade? What is that assignment? Your involvement in discussions and other students' projects? Do you realize that you need to go to all those discussion pages on Canvas and type in some comments? Logan needs some feedback from the people in this class on how his meeting went. And this isn't the first time I've done it, but I was his stand-in meeting conductor. And he talks in his paragraph about how he feels about that, and I never know what a person's going to say about it, but I give it my best shot based on their plan that they had submitted, and then we see what happens, and he gets to do the follow-up with what he wants to say. So now he needs some response from all three of you so that you can get credit for that exercise where you participate in discussions and other people's stuff. So you need to go to everybody's. I think I put up there one for everybody's meeting. You need to look at everybody else's meeting and type some kind of comment. I mean, say, well, I made a comment in class. I know you did. Now you need to make a comment on Canvas. It's part of blended learning. And it's part of helping you have some experience working with this medium that's going to be a part of your life in the future. But it happens that I enjoy trying to make this happen. And I mentioned this class as the only thing that probably gets a little difficult is the online people having a meeting. I mean, Logan could have had a meeting at his church with some staff people and recorded it and sent it to me, and I could have watched that, but I find the meeting that we did, the way we did it, works best for a lot of online students, and he seemed to be comfortable with doing that, so that'll work for him. But the real challenge for me is having online math students who watch me teach math on a video and then try to work the math problems. And what happens when they get stumped and they send me an email and say, I don't understand. I saw you work this problem and I still don't understand it. And so then I type a message back. Well, you do this, and then you do this, then you do this, then you do this, and they say, does that make sense? And then I run through that process and see if it makes sense and it clarifies it for them. They go, oh yeah, thanks a lot. I go, aha, this is so fulfilling. You follow me? This is so fulfilling to teach math this way. Now, if I were to say, oh man, I hate these online math students. This is just a pain in the neck. It's like, no, then maybe you need to be working someplace else. But the more you can reach up here to these desire and fulfillment stuff, the richer the experience is going to be. Okay, that's enough of that one. Let's do another one. You go, wait a minute. This is the same one. It's got the little ladder on it again. I know, so we don't talk about the ladder. We talk about the other page. What's the other page? People are motivated by things they like to do, by things they feel are successful, and by things which obviously help other people. We need to accentuate these positives. List some of the principal reasons that people volunteer in church settings. There are 8 reasons here. What's one of them? What's the first one?
They want to be needed.
So, guess what? I'm going to learn to use an emotive word here. We need some help. let's see, what did I just hear the pastor say recently? We've started a new ministry. Junior high kids, after athletic events on Friday night from Raymore High School, need a place to go. And we're opening up our gymnasium and our gymnasium activity room for them to come here and hang out. And we need people who will just come here and sit in the room and be there to help supervise as well as mingle with the students and talk to them and make them feel at home. You see, I could do that. He spelled out what he's looking for. And we need some people to do that. We don't want these kids just to come here and just stand around and not have any representation from our church. We're going to have trunk or treat in our parking lot. And what do we need? We need some people to put treats in the trunk of their car and put it in the parking lot where the kids in the community can walk around and get some treats. And we need some people to be here just to greet people who show up and be friendly to them. Do you understand? You're specifying what you want people to be doing. It's almost like we're taking all the work that needs to be done and we're slicing the pie into little pieces and saying, here's a slice, here's somebody doing this, here's somebody doing this. We're describing people doing all the things that need to be done, and we're asking people to pick one of these people and you become that person. If we were going to make a visual of it, it would probably be a picture of all this stuff going on and a whole bunch of people standing around doing things, and we made a video, and then looking for a name to attach to each of these people, and which job would you like to have? What thing would you like to do? And when we were in Peoria, we went to a church there where, talk about vacation Bible school, I had never seen one like this. Their vacation Bible school was so huge and so elaborate that every church in town sent their kids to this church's vacation Bible school. I mean, they brought in acrobats. It was amazing what they did. And they wanted it to be a citywide thing. They didn't care where you went to church. They wanted Christian kids coming so that all the non-Christian kids would have lots of Christian kids to interact with. But it was so big, they needed everybody in church volunteering to do something. We need everybody's help at this time of the year in the summertime for this vacation Bible school that we do. And it was really exciting because everybody in church said, "Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing?" Because everybody understood we all have to get involved in this thing because they need all of our help to put on this huge, big production. And it's amazing the size of some things that you can do with volunteers when you get the momentum growing and you get that kind of enthusiasm growing. So people want to be needed. So let's let them know that we need your help. They want to help others. Here's how you can help. So use those kind of words. They want to make a difference. Here's how you can make a difference in somebody else's life. They want to learn a new skill. Well, I don't know how to do that. Well, we've got a team of people that are working on that. You can join the team and learn how to do it. When we were in Peoria, we were doing some remodeling to a building to use it for a classroom. And the board decided that the best way to do this is let some of the men in the church, the school family, who were builders, come and put up new sheetrock around the walls of this building. And I said, "Oh, when are they going to do it? I'll volunteer to help." And they all laughed. They said, "Do you know how to hang sheetrock?" I said, "No. But won't they need somebody to be a gopher?" You know what a gopher is? In Texas, they know what gophers are. You know what a gopher is?
Somebody who runs around doing odd jobs.
Somebody who runs around doing the dirty work, carrying the mud, a bricklayer who's going to lay brick all day and is a master at bricklaying needs somebody to keep bringing in buckets of concrete to lay the brick with. He's called a hod carrier of all things. That's his job. All he does is pick up a bucket full of concrete, take it up to where the bricklayer is and put it there, and when that one's almost empty, he brings another one, because this bricklayer just putting that stuff up there, he needs a hod carrier. So, and we call him kind of a gopher. So he needs to just needs to be they needed a gopher. So I said, I'll be their gopher. And so I went that day to help them, and all these sheetrock guys who were masters at their craft were laughing that I didn't know any of this stuff. But what was interesting is one of them finally said, why did you even come, Tom? I said, well, first, I wanted to help fix this building up, but I don't know anything about hanging sheetrock. But I thought, if I hang out with you guys for a day and carry the mud and get the tape and do whatever you need me to do as a gopher, at the end of the day, I'll probably learn how to hang sheetrock. And guess what happened? I learned how to hang sheetrock. So now, if a piece of sheetrock gets broken at my house, or I have a room that I want to remodel, I can pull all the sheetrock off. In fact, my daughter had some guys, when she was single, she had a house, and some guys came over and got rowdy and busted a hole in the wall, and she was all in tears about it. And I said, it's okay, I can fix it. She said, Dad, you can't fix it. It's a great big hole. They busted the sheetrock. And I said, I can fix it, girl. And I went over there and cut out the part that was damaged, cut a piece of sheetrock and put it in, and then taped the joints and knew how to put mud on them and sand them down to where when I was finished and I repainted the wall, you couldn't even tell where the kids had damaged it. She goes, wow, Dad, where'd you learn to do that? And I said, in Peoria, when I helped those guys that were hanging sheetrock in that room. So I'm just telling you, sometimes people volunteer because they want to learn a new skill. And they'll just volunteer to help where they don't know something about it, so they can learn something about it. What's the next thing? They want to belong. Number 4, they want to belong to a caring community. They want to be a part of a group of people who really care about someone. There'll be people in Europe who will say, I want to be a part of what you're doing to reach these teens. There'll be people in Japan who will say, I want to be a part of this ministry. Now, and when that's their motivation, I want to be a part of what's going on, say, come on. I want to be a part of what's happening in this orphanage. And probably what you have to say is, just like one time I had a guy say to me, he said, Tom, I would like to be your assistant. I'm a Sunday school teacher. I'd like to be your assistant teacher. And I said, okay. So he just wanted to pair up with me and help with my Sunday school class. So I said, so here's what I need somebody doing. And I gave him a job. And his job was to do these particular tasks that I wish I would have had time to do, but I didn't have time to do. And now, the reason he wanted to be my assistant teacher is, guess what he really wanted to do? When I was gone, he wanted to teach the class. Now, maybe I'll ask him to teach it, and maybe I won't. It depends on how faithful he is in these jobs I give him. You follow me? And if he's really faithful and does a good job, then I'll let him teach when I'm absent. But if he's not, I have some other qualified people in church that I could ask to teach for me. And if he says, well, one guy said, he said, I don't want to do all this other stuff. He said, I just want to be your substitute teacher. And I said to him, well, I've got 3 or 4 people who are available to be a sub when I'm gone. So I don't really need another one of those. Because what I needed is someone who would simply say, I'm willing to just help wherever I'm needed and do whatever you want done. Number 5, they want some affirmation and someone to give them a sense of worth. Now, it says self-esteem on this page, but see, self-esteem, if you think about it, self-esteem, that's you looking in the mirror and saying, you are really good, Esther. You are really good. That's like me looking in the mirror and saying, Tom, you're such a hard worker. You're such a good worker. You're such a good husband. You're such a good father. You're such a good grandfather. Have any of you ever tried that? Just for fun? When I read some books on self-esteem years ago that talked about if nobody else will give you worth, you give it to yourself. And I read this book that actually said do stuff like that. So I got in front of a mirror and did that just to see what would happen. And I started feeling sick to my stomach. Can you picture looking at yourself and telling yourself how good you are and starting to feel sick at your stomach? Because you know yourself better than anybody else does, and you know no matter what you say, you are not that good. It doesn't work. But when my wife says, Tom, you're a good husband, and when my children say, Dad, you're a good father, and when my grandchildren say, Poppy, you're an awesome grandfather, now that gives me a sense of worth. You follow what happens? Our true sense of worth comes from the worth ascribed to us by other people. So basically, some people are coming because they're craving for a sense of worth. And I think, and they want some affirmation. And I think, you know what, that's great. And often, here's how you'll get a clue to that. Someone will volunteer to help at the orphanage, and then they'll say, Esther, how am I doing? Am I doing a good job? And what will you say? No, you're not. No, you're not. You're doing a lousy job. Now, if they are, you have to be honest. But if they're doing a good job, when they ask you that, you understand what they're seeking? They're seeking some affirmation. And you make a note. This person is helping here because they have a need for affirmation. So what am I going to do on a regular basis? Walk around and affirm them. I'm going to meet their need. And that's going to give them a stronger bond to the organization. What's the next one? They want to grow in their faith and share their God-given gifts. That's great. If they've got a good handle on their spiritual gifts. Do you know anybody who claims to have a spiritual gift and they go around beating people over the head because God's given them this spiritual gift? I have the gift of discernment, and I just discerned that you should not be eating so many goldfish. It's not good for you, Daniel. It's just like, wait a minute. I have the gift of exhortation, so I'm just going to exhort all of you today. And I'm thinking, you know, some of these folks, you eat as many goldfish as you want. They are good for you, Daniel. And you can tell they're good for you because they taste so good. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, I want to grow in my faith. Now, you want to grow in your Christian walk and you think this is an area where you might want to be working, that's great. Let's do that. And if it doesn't work out, then we'll say, let's try to find something else for you to do. Number 7, they want to keep from being lonely. They're just tired and bored of doing nothing, and they want to get involved. Hey, let's get involved and let's get them to work. They want to support a cause that they believe in. I believe in what's going on here, and I want to be supportive of it. And then I say, okay, when someone says, what can I do to support this ministry? You say, here's what you can do. And then you help them become a part of what's going on to make things happen. Okay, that's enough of that. It's time to take a break. So I'll turn this off and then we'll start it again in about 10 minutes.